You're now tuned in to the Desire to Trade podcast, a show where we bring you the best figures of the trading world and teach you how you can become a successful trader. This is your host, Etienne Crete.
Hey, what's up, trader? It's Crete here, founder of Desire to Trade and the host of the Desire to Trade podcast. Now, this week for the episode, I've interviewed Stig Broderson. Stig is doing an amazing job as the co-host of the Investors podcast, a podcast where him and Preston Pish study billionaire, and they try to see the lessons. They try to see what books they're reading and how they can use that information to get better themselves. Now, this is one of my favorite podcasts, and I've been listening to it for a long time, so I was pretty happy to bring him on the show. Stig is doing a lot of stuff. He's not only a college professor, but he's been writing a couple of books, including the Warren Buffett accounting book, which I love. In this episode, Stig talks about a lot of different topics, including investing, of course, but also trading, because he's been a trader for a couple of years. He has an amazing background, which he shares a lot about. And then we also drift to a couple of topics in life in general, how you can learn better, whether that's for trading, whether that's for investing, or whether that's for your life in general. Now, one way to connect with me after the show, just check out desiretotrade.com/group and you'll be redirected to the Facebook group. I want to make it a powerful tool and I want you to be in it. I don't want you to be left on the side. So check this out right now, desiretotrade.com/group, and I'll see you there. Stig Broderson, welcome to the Desire to Trade podcast. How are you doing?
I'm great. Thanks for having me, Chen. How are you today?
Well, really good. Thank you. It's awesome because I have a guest that's pretty different from most guests. In fact, you're not a trader. You're more like an investor. But the thing I'm really passionate about is you really have some sort of knowledge in it because you've been doing trading before. So tell us how you started to trade and how everything started for you, basically.
Yeah, well, so this was actually just after the financial crisis. So I was done with my master's in the finance international business, and I don't know if you remember this, Chen, but back then it was kind of like you were transitioning into or from a situation where even graduates would get a bonus just to sign a contract with almost any financial company, even on the entry level. And then, there was just this quick flip, and then everyone was just unemployed, and they definitely didn't want to hire anyone, and they didn't want to pay any bonuses at all. So that was actually that was how I started, and I was so lucky that around the time I wrote my thesis, I had a few offers, and one of them was from a local trading company. And this is not the story of how I always wanted to be a trader, like for years and years, whatever. It was kind of like I had a few offers, and this was for me the best offer, and I really, really didn't want to be unemployed. So that was definitely my struggling start.
So what kind of trading were you doing at that time? Was it like a prop firm or something different?
Well, it was power trading. So I was trading electricity on European exchanges. So that would be the main markets here in Europe. That would be France and Germany. Obviously, we also do something in Spain, UK. So basically, just like any trading, you would find power whenever it was cheap somewhere, and then you would transport it to another country and sell it there.
Okay, tell us a little bit how that works, because most of my followers are more trading either Forex, so like currencies, or they're trading stock in some case. So tell us how that works, electricity.
Yeah, well, this is really the cool thing about any kind of trading. Like you have a given purchase price, and then you have it somewhat an idea of you can get a higher price somewhere else. So sometimes you would just take a risk and say you would buy certain amount of units when it comes to power, and you had an idea that perhaps I can buy this in Spain and sell it at a higher price in Germany, or it might be that you, as you probably also know, that you already had someone you could sell it to, and then you're just hoping for a cheap price somewhere, say in Denmark for that matter, where I'm actually located. So what you'll basically do is that you will look at your analyses, and you have some type of information about where you think the market price is going, and based on that, you would take some bets in the market.
That's pretty cool. That's something like kind of unusual because most people are not seeing trading that way. But it's interesting. Now, what I'm curious about is you've been from trading and like everything seems to be super nice, but then you've been to investing. So how did that happen?
I don't know, Jen, if I'm the right person for you to have on this podcast, because I quit trading because I didn't want to do it anymore. So like
Okay.
I don't know if you should have contacted me a few years ago when I was still trading,
Okay.
me saying it's the best thing in the world. No, like there was still, I mean, there was, as an investor or as a trader, as a human being for that matter, it's kind of like you were always being weighing pros and cons, right? And as long as it's you think it's good, as long as there are more pros and cons, you will keep doing what you're doing. But at some point in time, I just felt there were more pros for me doing trading. But that doesn't mean that it wasn't awesome to be trading. I mean, I'd still miss the kick that you can get from doing a really good trade.
So just to go there, what are the pros and the cons of trading, let's say, that you saw at the time?
Well, when it comes to the pros, definitely the thrill of making an amazing trade. I mean, you never get tired of that. And I can see that you're grinning right now, Shichen. So you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Doing a killing in the market, that's something we all like, and the ego boost that you just that you have. I think that's amazing. But I mean, some of the cons is that definitely the hours. Not only usually work many hours, so I wasn't doing this from my desk back home. I was actually going to like my workstation at my employer's office. So I mean, long hours, and I was often working nights, which was really, really hard. So that would come in like 10:30 at night and leave at 7 o'clock in the morning. At some point in time, it's it's not fun anymore. But also, the stress. So I wasn't trading for my own account as some trading companies are doing, or at least perhaps the trading company would leverage whatever you put in. This was for the company's account. So it wasn't stress like that. I wasn't losing my own money, even though I would obviously get some type of bonus if I did well. But it was also stress in terms of, if you're losing a lot of money, it's just very stressful. And for some weird reason, you just tend to be more mad when you lose money than happy when you do good trades. I don't know if it's just me or if you feel the same way.
No, it's definitely true. Yeah, I think those points are pretty accurate, I would say, for any type of trader. And yeah, it's definitely the case.
Yeah, I think it's about like how you see yourself, and like all traders, like you can't be a trader unless you think you are really awesome at it. I mean,
yeah, it all depends on your personality in the end. So you have to know what's good for you and what fits your style. Yeah,
I don't think that you can be a good trader if you don't have like a big ego. But if you have a big ego, you also kind of expect to beat the market all the time. And if you beat the market, you're just like, oh yeah, it's just another day at office. Because I'm so awesome, obviously I beat the market. And you don't get that. I mean, you're not really happy. And then if you're losing, you're like, how can this be? I'm the master of the universe. I can't be losing in a trade. What's happening? And you just get completely wear down. So I've seen that so many times.
That's why you have to control your emotion and everything. Yeah. And so how does investing differs from that view of like trading? How is that different?
Well, I think I think it's very different actually. And I also think it's really interesting that a lot of traders, at least traders I know, they transition into stock investing at some point in time. And it's really fun like when you speak to stock investors who are not traders and they were saying something like, oh yeah, so the market, dropped 2% and it was just a crazy day yesterday. And then when you're used to do intraday trading, which is just really, really fast, you could have like sometimes it could be like 10-fold or 100-fold. Like you've seen the craziest thing in the power market. Something could be trading at like 10 euros one day and then, or 1 point a day. And then 3 minutes after, because something weird happened, it was trading like 130, 500 euro. Like some like strange thing are happening. And then you just have people saying, yeah, Coca-Cola lost 30 cents yesterday. It was crazy.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So what are the advantages of investing, in your opinion?
Well, I think it comes in many shapes and forms. So one of the things, and this is more from a more humanitarian point of view, I want to say, is that for me, investing is not a zero-sum game. I think one of the things I found hard in the end about trading was that I kind of felt like I needed to be smarter than another person. I was zero-sum game, like I need to win and then another person had to lose, or the other way around. So if I could compare this to tennis, I would say that I have to hit a lot of winners in trading, whereas in stock investing, I just needed not to be making too many mistakes. Like I just needed to be less bad. I didn't need to be the best to have a good track record.
I guess even for existing traders, they still have I know a lot of traders who are interested in investing as well. Like they like to put some money aside and then invest it more securely. So I think it's good. Now, can you tell us a little bit what someone has to do to get into investing?
Well, I think that you need to be really determined if you want to be good at investing and trading for that matter. I mean, it's not something where you can just take a 3-hour course and whatnot, and then you'll just know everything that you need to know. I mean, you need to spend a lot of hours before you can not only beat the stock market, but be in the stock market. So we talked about emotions before. I think that really relates to trading, and I think one of the advantages that traders have whenever they or if they transition into stock investing is that they know how to deal with their emotions. I mean, if you are used to losing like a lot of money really, really fast in trading, if you lose 2% of your stock portfolio one day, you would usually not be discouraged. And I think that's a huge advantage. But I think, in stock investing, you do a lot of fundamental analysis. You think a lot in terms of cash from streams, whereas technical analysis, at least what I've been practiced, is that it's a lot of intuition too. And even though they might be using charts, it's just a lot faster. Like you'll figure out really, really fast whether or not you're right or wrong.
Of course, you probably know that trading is pretty hard, but I guess investing also has some difficulties and it's pretty tough. So do you have any moment where you felt like everything didn't work in investing? Like you felt like things were pretty tough?
No, actually not in stock investing.
Okay.
And whether or not that might be due to luck or my trade experience, I don't know. I was fortunate enough. I don't want to say like it was all skill, but I was fortunate enough to sell the vast majority of my stocks just before the crash. And so, it's kind of like sometimes you can make the right decision, but the right decision is not always what you make most money on. So for instance, in investing, you would say, okay, I have a chance to buy a stock at, and I think the fair value is $100 and I can buy it at $50. I mean, that might be the right decision, but it might take forever before you see this convergence between the price and the value. And there's this very, very famous quote of John Maynard Keynes who's saying that the market can stay irrational longer than you can stay solvent.
Yeah.
And I think that's true for trading as well. Like you can make the right decisions all the time based on historical performance or whatnot, but sometimes there's just a lot of variance and you will just invariably lose at some point in time. And I've been so fortunate that in stock investing it hasn't happened, but on the other hand, I mean, say that I was heavily invested in 2008, which I wasn't. I was probably being taken off guard like the rest of the world.
What are the ways you kind of manage your risk in investing? Are there any ways or any techniques you can use not to lose too much money, or?
Well, there's this quote. Sorry again, I'm giving you all this quote, but there's this quote from Warren Buffett who's saying that you don't have to swing at every pitch. And I think that's probably one of the best advice I can give to people in terms of handling their risk. So what's typically happening in stock investing and what's definitely happening in trading is that you kind of feel like you need to get even, right? So especially if you have a losing day, right? You need to get even, and if you don't get even, you can't sleep or whatnot. And you just decide to take a lot of stupid risks. And the important thing to think about when it comes to trading, investing, and whatnot is that there's always a new day tomorrow. Like you don't have to to win today. You can do that tomorrow. And in contrast to say baseballs, like you have to swing at some point in time. Otherwise, three strikes and you're out. But it's not like that in investing at all. You can wait for a year before you find the right stock pick, or in trading, you can wait for the right trade for, I don't know if you could wait for a year, but you could wait for a really, really long time until you have your odds in your favor. And I think that's my main takeaway and my main advice for people when it comes to managing your risk.
Mm-hmm. And how do you manage the stress of like not knowing whether your investment will pay out?
Actually, I don't check the stock quotes that often.
Uh-huh.
I think, and it's probably, it's definitely the reverse habit I have in terms of trading. Like, I think it's easier than when it comes to stock investing that you can just close your computer and you don't feel like you are online all the time. So very often I would just close my computer whenever I'm done working and not think about investing at all. And I can easily have a week or two without checking stock quotes. So like, I think that stress is also a question of how much you put it on yourself. Like, the world doesn't want to stress you, but you can just end up stressing yourself a lot if you keep looking at your portfolio saying, I lost 0.3% today. How can I change my position? When you probably made the right decision like a month ago, and you probably just should sit on your hands.
I just want to recap. This is a really good lesson for trader, because sometimes people just want to check their screen or their phone all the time and like looking to how the trade is going. But it's something like terrible to do. It's something like most people just cannot do. They will just fall and just end up closing their trade too early. So that's a really good lesson, I think. And I found myself that the more I get away from my computer and not checking the chart, the better I am in trading. So yeah, so thanks a lot for that. It's definitely good.
Yeah, well, trading is like any very competitive discipline. Like, you need to be well rested before you can perform. And it's really not about how many hours you put it in, at least not in my experience when you are there. It's more like how much you're on top of your game when you finally do your trade. I mean, if anything, I would just like to, get in the office, work for 1 hour and be completely, pumped. And I would probably make more money than if I stayed there for like 16 hours straight doing a lot of mediocre trades and make a lot of mistakes.
Yeah, no, it's really about focus, I think. I think you said it well, yeah. Now, this kind of brings me to another topic, which I find really interesting. You have the Investors Podcast with Preston Pish. So on that podcast, you kind of moved to talking about the books that billionaires read. And I want to know some of those books. Can you mention a couple of them that really marked you, really inspired you? I
want to give you a few. I think The Snowball by Ed Schroeder. That's a book about Warren Buffett. I really like that one. And it's a biography, so it's not so much about, so this is how Warren Buffett makes $70 billion. It's more like the life he's living and how the life he's living has allowed him to make that much money. And I think, also when it comes in terms of trading, like, I can definitely see why that might be the call for some people, because trading allows people to live the life they want to live. And if you're not true to your values, I just find it hard for you to be successful basically in anything. So that was the first book. And I think another book, that might be The Intelligent Investor by Benjamin Graham.
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah, another a great book about how to look at the stock market. So if you are new to stock investing, I'll definitely want to check out that book. And if you are in a hurry, you can just read chapter 8 and chapter 20. That's the same two chapters that Warren Buffett always talks about, which is basically about how Mr. Market, which is his metaphor for the stock market, is just extremely irrational, and how you should separate price and value all the time whenever you're doing stock investing.
And that works in trading, definitely. Yeah, definitely true. Now, so far on the podcast, I don't know how many books you've been reviewing, but what are some of them that really, like, what are some lessons you got from them, basically, that apply to not only investors or traders, but like anyone about billionaires?
Yeah, so I think it's a great question, Chen. And one of the books that we're actually going to do next week is that, I think it's called The One Thing. And that book is really about focus. For me, it has just been amazing. I mean, like I'm doing all kinds of things because I have the freedom. I'm a college professor, but I'm now starting to do part-time because I have a ton of projects that I want to pursue, and you can just so easily get distracted. Like, so now I have a chance to chat with you. This morning I was doing a course. Then I was checking out a few emails. Like, and all this is fine and well. It's like, and it's not like I don't want to speak to you, but but sometimes there's just like, you need to do one thing. What is most important right now, and just do that 100%. And that might be to do interview a whole day, or that might be to do a course a whole day or whatnot. But like, don't do 120 things the same day. You just never really. I mean, you need to block the time to really be efficient. And I think that's an awesome book. I definitely wanted to recommend the one thing to anyone out there.
Any other book you would recommend to anyone out there?
I'd say How to Win Friends and Influence People.
That's the one I was thinking about. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, really good. Yeah.
I love it.
Great
and a great book about how to basically interact with other people. I saw this statistic and I had no clue how they came up with this statistic, or if it's just purely allegorical. But it was saying that 85% of the time when you're happy, it's because of human relations.
Okay.
But sadly, 85% of the times when you're bad, it also comes down to human relations. So if you want to be happy, you probably should think about how you communicate with other people. And reading that book, and I think I read that 3 or 4 times. Like, I'm always so ashamed whenever I'm reading the book, because I'm just thinking, Stig, how can you be so rude to other people? So
yeah, okay. We all know it's important to read it. We all know it's important to get lessons from other people. But how do you find the time with all you're doing right now to read books and everything?
Well, one of the resources that extremely valuable for me, that's Audible. So the reason why I think I'm probably around a book per week, and I think on the podcast we probably do like a book every 2 weeks, is that I just listen to my books whenever. So I have like 45 minutes to work. So that's 1.5 hours every day if I go to work.
Okay.
But also because like I'm part-time, so it's easier for me to find time to read and to do the podcast. And then the other thing, obviously, when all that we do is that we're so fortunate at the podcast that we have a team around us. So gradual transition into having more people working for you clearly also helps a lot. So I definitely can't take all the credit for the content that we are providing.
I ended up starting to read books about like either trading or anything on Audible. But what I found is it's pretty much harder to focus when you read like an audiobook. So like, what are some advice you use to, because I guess you take notes and everything while you read the books, right?
Yeah, well, I actually take notes on my phone, and one of the reasons why is that I mean, I know it sounds a bit out there, but it's kind of like you need to use all the senses whenever you're learning something. So whenever you're reading a book, you are you're using your eyes, which is fine, but that's like one sense. So if you're listening to a book and you're writing it down, it's like you're also remembering that you're seeing what you're writing, and you're also using your fingers while you're doing it. And I know it seems a bit out there. It's kind of like how the human brain works. It's it's something that we're taught in whenever we have to teach students how they can learn better. But it's kind of like if you activate yourself, it's just easier to remember for your brain. So I'm sorry that, I mean, I know this is a podcast about trading, and now I'm like learning techniques and everything, but that was really just to answer your question.
But it's really good because anyone need to learn at some point, and they need to apply what they read. Like in the end, it's all about applying. So yeah, if you don't take notes, it's hard to apply. Now, what are some of the best advice you would give to people who want to start to invest, or like they have some money on the side and they want to have like a less risky way of investing that money?
I'd say that they should spend a lot of time before they start investing. And it's probably not that much different from trading. Like, you should really know your stuff before you jump into trading, which no one does, by the way, including myself. Like, people would just go ahead saying, I have 10,000 euros. So I would just,
let's open an account.
10,000 euros. Yeah. Definitely don't do that. As it is for trading, like you can do some like you there are some practice sites. I know that it's not the same. Like you won't feel the sting of losing money before you really lose a lot of money, and it's extremely healthy for you to do, especially if you want to survive in the long run. But I think really study the topic like a long time. I mean, it's been 11 years since I started my undergrad, and I still don't feel like I know what I need. Like I know what I need to know about stock investing. I mean, not even kind of close. And I've been spending so many hours in this for the past 11 years. So please, if you're sitting out there, don't think that you can just master this in 3-hour course or whatnot. Like you really have to put in a lot of hours yourself.
And what are the things you do to get better at investing yourself? Or is it only reading books, or is it practicing or taking course?
Yeah, well, there's a lot of things though. Courses, that might be one thing. Obviously, books, reading a lot of annual reports. Basically, the things that people don't want to do. I look at successful people like this: is that successful people are basically doing what the unsuccessful people don't want to do. And what they want to do is to invest 100K in one stock and get filthy rich, finding the next Microsoft. But that's just simply not going to happen. So what they were not doing is that they were not reading a ton of annual reports. They're not sitting in front of the computer studying courses. They're not meeting up with other like-minded people, taking time out of the schedule to discuss potential stock picks. They're not waiting 2-3 years perhaps before they start investing. I mean, so like all these things that you want to do, you should probably just, I wouldn't say that you shouldn't act on it, but you have to be very careful about when to act on them, and then slowly transition into putting your first dollar into a stock. I think that's my best advice.
Yeah, it's really about progressing without going too fast, I suppose, right?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. So how can people find you these days? Because you have an amazing podcast. We've talked a little bit about it, but tell us a little bit more about all that stuff.
Yeah, so the podcast is originally, it was actually called The Investors Podcast, and it was actually really fun because Jen and I, we discussed this just before we actually started recording, and that slowly we transitioned the brand into We Study Billionaires, The Investors Podcast. And originally it was like pure value investing. So that was pure, how does Warren Buffett invest? Like what's his philosophy? How does he value a company? But then we also figured out that investing is not just only about how to calculate the intrinsic value of a stock. It's also more about how to acquire the skills to do it and how to live your life when you are investing. Psychology as well. So we decided actually to study a lot of billionaires, typical billionaires within stock investing, and just read the books that they have written and read the books that they have read, and then basically just discuss what's the key takeaway we can get from these successful people. And to me, success is really not a secret. Like if you do what other successful people are doing, you will have success. If you're doing the same thing as what unsuccessful people are doing, you'll usually not be successful. So that was kind of our thinking behind the podcast. How can we learn to be successful? And this is not our way of saying, do as us. We are extremely successful. This is our way of saying we are the crash test dummies for how to think like a billionaire. Would you tag along on our journey?
No, and it's really cool, and it's really not about investing only, right? It's about everything. And I remember a couple of podcasts I listened about with the books like Think and Grow Rich and all that stuff. So it's really applied to anyone, basically.
Yeah, well, it's a lot about having the right mindset and controlling your emotions, controlling your thoughts, and even if you're not into stock investing, some of these books might be extremely valuable for you as a trader, because trading is basically, at least my opinion, trading is not that hard. But it is in your head. Everything is in your head when it comes to trading. It's not hard to sit and click on the mouse. It's not like you have to have the perfect body to do 100 yards the fastest or whatnot. Everyone can learn how to trade, but few people are successful because you need to have the right mindset. And that's really also what we're starting on the podcast.
Where can people find this podcast, and where can they find you on the web?
It's called theinvestorspodcast.com. And if you go in there, we have a free checklist, and people can see how I find stocks and which books I read, and so on. We've sent that directly to your inbox for free.
Cool. And you also send the summary every week, right? By email, which is pretty cool. The book summaries.
Yeah. We try to do it as often as we can. Like, I mean, again, we have like day jobs, and my co-host Preston, he has like 4 kids. So sometimes it's like we don't do it like for 6 weeks or something. And when we have people writing an email saying, you need to send us something, and we're like, yeah, okay. Like, but you're right. Like, we try to do it like twice a month, but please don't get mad if we don't. Like, we try only to send out newsletters when you have something to say. And I think the important thing to understand about stock investing is that very often there's not something new happening, so we don't have anything interesting to say, and we would just rather not say anything than saying the same thing we did 2 weeks ago.
No, that's definitely cool. Any place people can follow you on social media as well, or?
Yeah, I mean, they can tweet to me at Stig_Brodersen, and
Cool.
we can just go from there.
Nice. So I'll have one last question for you. Before, I just want to remind all the listeners that the show notes are going to be on desiretotrade.com/Stig. So we'll have everything there, the books we talked about, and there's a lot. And we'll have everything there, basically a nice summary of the episode with all the books, all the resources, the links, so you can follow them. And Stig, my last question is this. If you could give only one piece of advice for people to thrive in trading, life, investing, or anything, what would that one piece of advice be?
I think that would be, as long as you are true to your values, you will always be successful.
Nice. Can you elaborate just a little bit more on that? Because it's pretty interesting.
Well, I've found out that I wasn't true to my values whenever I was trading. And I wouldn't say like I was a horrible trader or anything, but I wasn't happy. And when you're not happy, it's really hard to be successful because you are influenced by so many factors. Like, it might be your job and your work, and your friends, your health. But it's kind of like if one of those fundamentals, if that don't work, it just have a spillover effect on everything else. So as long as you're true to your values, you will be successful with your family, in your relationships, and in your work as well.
I like that. So thanks, Stig, for being on the Desire to Trade podcast. And I'll see you guys in the next episode. Just a quick announcement before we end this show. I want to tell you about something I'm really excited about. Something that keeps me up at night and wakes me up in the morning. Now, a couple of weeks ago, I started reaching out to traders. Some of them had years of experience. Some of them are just starting out and don't know where to go. Now, what I've been trying to see is what common problem people had in trading. What was keeping them away from their trading goal? What was keeping them away from being able to trade live and not have any problem? Now, I realize that most people deal with the same issues. Some of them include overconfidence, lack of confidence, looking for the single best trading strategy, being affected by losses, wanting to take too many trades, or just simply not knowing what to learn. Now, I realize that traders not only need to know how to trade, they need to have a process to follow. They need to have a process from the beginning to the end, to what to do before trade, what to do in a trade, and what to do after a trade. Now, I decided to come up with something. A few weeks ago, I started coaching traders, and those traders are probably listening to this podcast right now. But I started coaching them and to see how I could go through the process of learning how to trade with them, how I could teach them the things they needed to know and avoid the things they needed not to know, like complicated notion of macroeconomics, which no one cares about. The key here is I wanted to have a system, something that people could just follow and learn and apply and benefit from it. Now, this is what I've been putting together, but I wanted to find a way to offer it to more people. So I've decided to pack all this into something people can just go at their own pace in and learn as much as possible and review when needed. This is not only about reading a book like most people do. It's not only about reading a book and trying to trade. It's really about having a resource that you can use, that show you how to do it, that you can rely on, and that guide you along the way of learning how to trade. Now, I've packed all this up into an affordable way for you to learn to trade. And this is going to be called the Power Trader. Now, it's not available yet, but it's going to be pretty soon. And I'm really excited to tell you about this because I know this will have a big impact on people. I know this will have a positive impact on yourself if you're trading. As I'm preparing this, you can check out desiretotrade.com/power trader and you'll get the article I wrote about it. It's just a simple way to learn more about it. And if you go on that page and sign up, you'll be able to get a free gift when I launch this program in a couple of weeks. So check that out, desiretotrade.com/powertrader in one word, and sign up there to get your free gift when I launch the program.
Thanks for listening to the Desire to Trade podcast. To get all the information on this show, free articles, and unique resources, make sure to check out www.desiretotrade.com and subscribe. Please leave us a review and let us know what you thought about the show. It's time to become the best trader you can be. See you next time.